On the African savanna, surviving is already difficult. But leading means carrying a weight few can endure. In a place where hunger never rests, where the smell of blood travels for miles, and where every mistake can condemn dozens of lives, there is always someone forced to stand on the front line. The first to face the invader, the first to sense danger, the first to run towards the threat while the rest of the group tries to survive. Because in nature, leadership does not come with free respect. It comes with scars, with broken teeth, with sleepless nights, with battles so violent that sometimes the leader remains alive only through sheer stubbornness. Here, authority does not mean comfort. It means living under constant pressure. It means accepting that protecting others can cost your own life. Because in wild Africa, leadership has never been a privilege. It has always been a sentence. Welcome to the brand new documentary, The Weight of Leadership, Protect or Disappear. And it is precisely in this world where leadership means accepting the constant risk of death that one of the most brutal rulers of Africa's rivers appears, the hippopotamus. During the day, much of the savanna bows before the water. Rivers, lagoons, and flooded areas become true refugees from Africa's extreme heat. But there is one important detail. Many of these places already have an owner. A dominant male hippopotamus can control long stretches of river, constantly patrolling the waters where dozens of females and calves live under his protection. And unlike many animals that merely display strength to intimidate, the hippo takes leadership to its final consequences. Because maintaining that territory is not a choice, it is a daily obligation. Any invader that crosses the wrong boundary can trigger an absurd battle. It does not matter if it is another hippo trying to take control of the group, or even huge animals coming too close to the water. The leader reacts. He always reacts. And when a dominant hippo decides to fight, the violence reaches an almost unbelievable level. And the goal of these fights is not just to wound, it is to expel, it is to destroy, it is to maintain dominance. Many of these confrontations end with deep punctures, pieces of flesh torn away, crushed jaws, and permanent scars spread across the entire body. Some leaders grow old, carrying marks so severe that their faces look like living maps of every battle fought throughout their lives. Because for a hippopotamus, the weight of leadership never disappears. Even after conquering the territory, he must defend it every day. He must constantly patrol the waters. He must watch rival males that are waiting for any sign of weakness. He must keep the calves protected in an environment where crocodiles, lions, and even other hippos represent danger. Few animals dare to challenge a dominant hippo inside the water. On the African savanna, even experienced predators understand the message when a hippo emerges from the river, opening that gigantic mouth and charging forward with unexpected speed. Even creatures used to killing prefer to retreat. But if there is one animal on the African savanna where the weight of leadership becomes a true sentence of war, it is the lion. Because in the world of lions, ruling does not mean resting on a rock while watching the horizon, as many imagine. It means living surrounded by the constant threat of losing everything: territory, females, cubs, his own life. And perhaps the cruelest part of all is the fact that a dominant male rarely faces only one rival. In Africa, many lions form coalitions, alliances made up of brothers, cousins, or males that grew up together. Some groups have 2 members, others reach 4, 5, sometimes even more. And when a coalition decides to invade a territory, what happens next is far from just a fight between animals. It is war. A war where the defeated may disappear forever. A dominant male spends much of his life patrolling invisible borders, marking trees, roaring at night, walking miles every day just to warn rivals that this territory already has owners. But roars do not always solve the problem. And when another group decides to move in, the leader must accept combat, even knowing he may be outnumbered. This is where the weight of leadership becomes brutally literal. There are records of males facing entire coalitions almost alone, absorbing bites, deep cuts, and simultaneous attacks just to prevent invaders from reaching the females and cubs of the pride. Because the leader knows exactly what happens if he loses. Infanticide. When a new coalition takes control of a territory, the cubs of the former dominant male are often killed by the invaders. It may seem cruel, and it is, but within the ruthless logic of the savannah, the new males need to eliminate the rival's offspring so the females can return to reproductive condition. And this turns every battle into something far greater than individual survival. The dominant male does not fight only for himself. He fights for the entire future of the pride. On the savannah, leadership means never lowering your guard. Because the king of the savannah does not live a life of privilege. He lives a life of absolute pressure. And perhaps it is precisely because they live surrounded by such dangerous threats that few animals in Africa have developed a collective sense of defense as impressive as the African buffalo. Because on the savannah, surviving alone is already difficult. But surviving while carrying the responsibility of protecting hundreds of individuals requires a different kind of strength. At first glance, a buffalo may seem like just a large herbivore, calmly grazing among the dry vegetation. But that impression disappears quickly when danger appears, especially when there are calves in the group. African buffalo live in large herds that can gather dozens, sometimes hundreds of individuals. And within that mass of heavy bodies, sharp horns, and absurdly compact muscles, there are more experienced animals that help guide the group along migration routes, feeding areas, and most importantly, through moments of crisis. Because when lions appear, someone has to hold the defensive line. And this is where the weight of leadership becomes almost unbelievable. While many animals panic and flee when facing predators, buffalo often do the opposite. They reorganize, they group together, they trap the calves in the center of the formation, and then move towards the threat. It is not rare to see dominant individuals literally positioning themselves between the lions and the most vulnerable members of the herd. The wounded, the elderly, and the calves remain protected behind that living wall of enormous horns and bodies that can exceed 900 kilos. And the most impressive part is that lions know exactly the risk they take when attacking a united group. Because an African buffalo is not just heavy, it is violently strong. Its thick horns form an extremely resistant bony structure known as the boss, a kind of natural helmet that protects the head during brutal impacts. When two males clash, the sound of their collisions echoes across the savannah like dry blows of wood against stone. And these fights are far from simple displays. Dominant males dispute space, hierarchy, and breeding rights through extremely violent physical confrontations. They lower their heads, lock their horns, and begin an absurd contest of strength, trying to push the rival until he gives in. On the African savannah, leadership also means accepting the weight of becoming a living shield, even knowing that a single mistake can end in death. And perhaps that is why even great predators show caution before an organized herd of buffalo. Because in that moment, they are not facing only prey. They are facing an army willing to fight to the end for its own members. But if there is one animal on the savannah where leadership means absolute control, constant pressure, and an entire life-sustaining conflict, it is the spotted hyena. Because contrary to what many imagine, hyena clans do not function in chaos. They function like true organized armies. And at the top of this structure, there is almost always a leader, an alpha female. While in many animals, males dominate through physical strength, in hyenas the opposite happens. Females are larger, more aggressive, and socially superior to males. From an early age, female cubs already occupy higher-ranking positions within the clan, inheriting status directly from their mothers. And maintaining that leadership comes at a gigantic cost. Because the alpha female does not rule only through intimidation. She controls practically everything. Access to food, priority at carcasses, the social organization of the group, internal disputes, the movements of the clan, and above all, territorial wars. Yes, wars. Because a hyena clan can gather dozens of highly coordinated individuals, defending enormous territories against extremely dangerous rivals. When two clans come into conflict, violence erupts in chaotic fashion. And in the middle of it all, the leader is usually there. The first to advance, the first to sustain the pressure, the first to accept the risk of dying. But perhaps the most impressive fact is that hyenas do not face only other clans. They frequently challenge lions themselves. In many regions of Africa, hyenas and lions live in an almost permanent rivalry. They dispute territory, carcasses, and dominance over certain areas. And although a lion is more powerful individually, numbers turn hyenas into extremely dangerous opponents. But perhaps the cruelest aspect of the weight carried by hyena leaders is far from territorial confrontations. It is in the birth of their cubs. Because while many animals experience intense pain during childbirth, spotted hyenas endure something even more extreme. The females have an anatomy unique among mammals. Their reproductive canal passes through an elongated structure